In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make gluten-free red velvet cupcakes with cream cheese icing. Hey guys, my name is Erin and I love red velvet cupcakes. But whenever I can make anything that's gluten-free that might be a little bit easier on my tummy, I'm going to jump on that opportunity. But in today's recipe, we're actually going to be using a gluten-free cake mix and just making some little adjustments to make it red velvet. The base recipe is from my newest cookbook, Chef Erin's Gluten-Free Cookbook, that has over 500 gluten-free recipes in it. And we are going to be altering the vanilla cupcake recipe right here on page 226. This book is available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle version. So I will share the link below if you want to check that out. So let's get started.
We're going to start with our cake mix, and I'm using a King Arthur gluten-free classic yellow cake mix. Dump that into a medium-sized mixing bowl or a standing mixer if you prefer. Next, we're going to add our pudding mix. This is very, very important. This is the cheesecake flavor pudding mix that I was originally going to use, but I decided to use my little scanner that I have on my phone to see if it is technically gluten-free or not, and look what happens. Oop, contains gluten. Yeah, that was just eliminated from the recipe list. Okay, so let's try this again with the vanilla flavor and see if we have the same issue. I know what the outcome is going to be because I've used it before, and no gluten-containing ingredients, so we can use this flavor for this recipe. Let's add a little bit of cocoa, because to make this red velvet, you only need to add 3 ingredients, which is cocoa, red food coloring, and a little bit of vinegar. That's it. That's all that makes it red velvet. When it comes to using food coloring in recipes, I'm using 2 tablespoons of the liquid red food coloring because that's what I have. Whereas if I'm using a paste, I'm going to use half the amount. Throw in 1 teaspoon of vinegar. That's the third add-in ingredient that transforms this into red velvet. There's half a cup buttermilk. The pudding mix that I checked but forgot to add to the bowl. We're adding that now. Better late than never, I guess. 3/4 of a cup vegetable oil. And our eggs. Time to grab that electric mixer and put it to work. We're going to beat this at medium speed for about a minute. We just want to make sure it's nice and blended. This batch makes 2 dozen cupcakes. So I've got my pan lined here with the cupcake liners, and then I'm just going to give a quick little light spray inside each cavity with cooking spray. It's time to distribute the batter evenly among these cavities. And what I like to do is I use an ice cream scoop. This is a red-handled scoop. I got it from a restaurant supply store here in town. And I was looking it up. It's about 2 inches in diameter, but it's got the red scoop. And from the restaurant supply store that I go to, they are color-coded by the different color handles, and the red scoop is the perfect size. I was looking it up and it looks like it's about 1 1/3 ounce, but it is 2 inches in diameter, and it is the perfect amount of batter whenever it comes to making cupcakes. And then we are going to put these in a 350-degree oven for about 22 minutes. After they're done baking, we're going to let them cool in the pan for about 5 minutes before you transfer them to a cooling rack to cool completely, and then we're going to top them with cream cheese icing. To make the cream cheese icing, we're going to combine softened butter, softened cream cheese. This is very important because if you try to beat butter and cream cheese that are hard and cold from the fridge, it's going to be difficult to get the right consistency and really break it up the way that it needs to for a good, smooth, creamy cream cheese icing. Once we get those in the bowl together, we are going to beat this at high speed for about 3 minutes. You really want to get the butter and the cream cheese nice and whipped and soft and smooth and beautiful before we add our confectioner's sugar and vanilla. I did discover that with this particular recipe with 2 dozen cupcakes with cream cheese icing on top, the perfect amount of confectioner's sugar is right at 4 cups. Add our 1 tablespoon vanilla, and then we're going to mix this again at high speed for another 3 minutes. It's time to pipe this icing on top of our cupcake. So I have a tip 1M that I've put inside a large pastry bag, and then I'm going to spoon the icing into the bag. You don't want to put too much at once because then it's going to be hard to handle. So I usually put about half of it in, and then I start icing the cupcakes. For red velvet cupcakes, I like to do a large rosette on top, which is why I use the tip 1M. And what you're going to do is you're going to start from the inside and then work your way around. Just make sure that your cupcakes are cooled because you don't want the cream cheese icing to melt on top. That will turn into a big old mess. Now, I'll be honest with you, I ended up having a little bit of extra batter, so I made an extra cupcake because I love sprinkling some of this garnish. So basically, you're just taking some of that cooked red velvet cupcake and you're crumpling it into little crumbs, and then you're just sprinkling it on the top. It gives it a nice little hint of color, just in case you weren't sure they were red velvet. For storing these cupcakes, you do want to make sure you store them in the refrigerator since it is cream cheese icing, but you can pull them out of the refrigerator about 30 minutes to an hour before you serve them, so the cream cheese icing will soften, making it more enjoyable whenever you sink your teeth into it. So you can store these in the refrigerator for up to 3 days before they start to dry out, or you can store them in the freezer for up to 6 months, which is my favorite way of storing cupcakes whenever I make big batches.
The funny thing about this recipe is that I didn't even realize until I was already done baking the cupcakes that I forgot to add the sour cream that the recipe actually calls for in the book. And I panicked because I was like, oh my gosh, I've never done that. I've never made this doctored cake mix recipe without the sour cream. But they puffed up perfectly. It was ridiculous. They were so good. So note to self, it's good to make happy little mistakes sometimes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.